My name is Kirk Wilder. I live in Boonville, California. I'm almost 76 years old, and I've had a wonderful time in aviation and many other things. And about 10 years ago, 10 or 11 years ago, I was taking my old airplane. I have a 1947 vintage Piper PA-12, which I love to show off and give people rides in. And I took it to the Ukiah Airport Day in Ukiah, California to display it. And while I was there, this very small young boy was standing in front of my airplane with a camera that was about as big as he was. And he was unusual because he was very polite and very respectful. He wasn't a typical young kid that was just screwing around and wanted to do things that he shouldn't do. So he asked very politely if he could photograph my airplane. And I thought that was rather unusual that he would ask that. And I said, of course you may. And he took some pictures, and then I asked him, are you interested in airplanes? And he stated that yes, he was going to be a pilot. And I just thought, yeah, okay, kids say this. So I asked if he'd like to come on my side of the rope barrier, the crowd restraining rope, and take a look at the airplane up close. And his eyes got real big. And the first thing he did was snap his head around and look behind him. And I followed his gaze, and standing quite a ways back was his mother. And she was glaring at me, like, who's this guy? What's he going to do? You know? And she said, okay, you go ahead. But she was watching, you know, and I laugh about that today. So he looked at the airplane, and I explained things, and he comprehended things very well. And I was very impressed. So he couldn't stay too long. His mother said, we got to go. There's other people waiting for us, and they left. So when I got back from that day, and I told my friends here at Boonville Airport, where I live, that I met this remarkable young man. And I thought I'd never see him again. So a year later, I fly my airplane back to Ukiah, California, which is only about 20 miles away by car and about 9 minutes away in the airplane from where Boonville Airport is. And I land there for another airport day, and I'm going to display my aircraft. And as the assistant airport manager, Ken, over there is waiting for me, and he's got my spot, and I'm taxiing in, and standing there right in front of where I'm going to be parked is this same young man with this big camera. And he's there again, waiting for me. So that was the beginning of a blossoming relationship that eventually led to me convincing his mother it's okay for him to go for a ride in the airplane, because she was very reluctant of that. And when I first got Jadao alone in the airplane, that was a few months after the second meeting, and let him actually fly the airplane. He was so small that it's a tandem seat airplane, so he was sitting behind me. He couldn't see anything in front of him except my back, but he could look out the sides of the aircraft and have some visual contact with the world outside the airplane. But he flew the plane so perfectly and so remarkably coordinated, I was stunned. I didn't know that he had spent hundreds of hours on a simulator prior to this flight, but this was the first time he had actually had his hands on a real airplane. And he was remarkable. I was very impressed. So that led on to more flying and more flying. And as he grew, this went over a number of years.
So what do you estimate his age was around that time?
I'm going to say 11, 12, something like that. I'm not sure exactly. If I took the time to go back through my logbooks, I could probably get you a precise date. And they're right there. Maybe we'll do that after I get done talking. But he was still very young and very And he was very short at that time. He's grown up now to be much taller. So he could not see out of the front of the airplane. But he could sure fly it perfectly. And we progressed, and I went through, I'm not a flight instructor, but I went through teaching him how to fly and having him do various things. And it got to the point where he was landing my airplane from the back seat where his forward visibility was virtually nothing. And he'd be peeking out around my shoulder, and I would, on many of the landings, I would just give him a little assist at the very last moment, but he made some landings where I didn't do anything. And that's rather remarkable. I've landed my airplane from the back seat, and I'm a big guy, and it's not easy to see, and it's much more difficult. And he was doing it, so it was quite spectacular. So during his, I guess it was his junior year in high school or senior year in high school, well, I got him to join the local chapter of the Experimental Aircraft Association, EAA, chapter 1027. And, you know, no cost involved, but he became a member of our chapter, and then we started working on getting a scholarship for him. And a new program had started at this time where they were offering $10,000 scholarships for people of his age to get a pilot's license. And the first year we qualified as a chapter, but we weren't selected to receive a scholarship. On the second year, we got selected to get a scholarship. I was the scholarship coordinator for the chapter. And so the chapter nominated Jadao to be the recipient of a $10,000 scholarship to get his pilot's license. And we were all excited, and you get him set up here, and he'll do it here in Ukiah, and we have a local flight instructor here, and everything was great. And then COVID hit, and everything went to hell. But he was also working part-time at a shop there at the airport in Ukiah called Aero Composites, making composite aircraft parts. And I knew the owner of the business, and I had gotten Jadao the year before his part-time job there. And it initially started as a summer job, but then he stayed working part-time, and he made a good impression. And through contacts with those people, Jadao ended up going to Casper, Wyoming, and to do his training on the scholarship that the EAA was providing, because they were flying back there in Casper. And friends of friends had a place, they lived there in Casper, they worked at the airport, free room and board for Jadao. It was a dream come true, and they're very good people. So when Jadao accepted the scholarship, the program was that he would agree to start flying within 60 days. He agreed to solo within 3 months of beginning his flight instruction. And he agreed to, he would pass his written test within 6 months, and he would then get his license, his final check ride done, and be certified within 12 months. That's the agreement, that's how the scholarship was structured. So Jadao did it in 35 days, from start to finish.
Remarkable.
Beyond remarkable. And it was so remarkable that I contacted EAA headquarters in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And as a member of EAA, we get a monthly magazine, Sport Aviation. And it's a worldwide organization, the EAA. The most, it's the top of the list for aircraft pilot organization, you know, type of things, in my opinion. And EAA, you know, it's experimental aircraft, it's also restoring antique aircraft. They have warbird chapters. It's anybody that wants to fly and be a pilot can be a member of the EAA. And their annual convention in Oshkosh, Wisconsin is the largest air show in the world. And they'll have in excess of, I was there a couple years ago, but they'll have over 70,000, 80,000 takeoff and landings in a week during this convention. It's unbelievable. It's beyond, you can't believe it. Huge organization now and very well organized. So his achievement was so remarkable that he was published. He's got a full-page article in the December 2020 issue of Sport Aviation on his achievement. And the article doesn't really explain everything he did because they were limited on space and stuff. But he's got the biggest photograph I've seen of any student pilot ever in sport aviation. It's really been really cool. And when he went back with his acquaintances and friends in Casper, flying otherwise, not on the scholarship. The scholarship flying was done at a flight school in a Cessna, very structured and had to be that way. But through these contacts, he was flying World War II trainer aircraft, North American T-6, competition aerobatic biplanes, the Kristen Eagle, other home-built airplanes, and all of this, people back there that were mentoring him and friends of friends, was all for free. And like the North American T-6 Texan, I got to fly it when I went back to see him get his license, but that airplane uses 35 gallons of fuel an hour. It's 650 horsepower. So multiply at that time 35 gallons of fuel per hour, 35 gallons times $5 a gallon back then. So it costs, it was coming up on nearly $200 an hour to fly the airplane. And it was worth every penny of it because I got a ride in it. And this is something, and he's flying it gratis and doing aerobatics in it, very, very intense, advanced maneuvers. His flight instructor, very qualified, 30,000 plus hour retired corporate pilot. So Jadao has now progressed where he's got his instrument rating. He's a qualified instrument pilot. He's soon to get his instrument rating. Once he has his instrument endorsement, instrument certificate, he can get paid to fly. He can go to work. After that, he'll get his flight instructor rating, and he can work as a flight instructor. And through his contacts, through these various places and through the years, he's got people that are already talking to him about, as soon as you get your commercial license, come see me. I've got a job for you. He might be flying corporate airplanes. He might be flying medical airplanes where they fly surgical teams and body parts around the country. It's a huge business, and there's a demand for pilots. He had one owner of a crop dusting outfit here in California that was real interested in getting to meet Jadao and know more about him, get him his commercial license so he could fly crop dusters. He told them, if you come fly a crop duster, the first year you work for me, you'll be making over $100,000 a year. Now that's a lot of flying, and it's also a different kind of flying because most of your day is spent about that high above the ground, which is pretty exciting. And so he's got a big future ahead of him. I'm very proud of him. To show how proud I am of him and how much I trust him, he's the only person in my entire life that I have ever let my airplane fly away from me. Well, I'm standing on the ground and watch my airplane fly away with somebody else flying it. I've never done that to anybody but him because I know he's good, right? He's a much better pilot than I am right now. I have no doubt about it.
Could you tell me how you got into doing the interview with Bob and Doug?
With what?
Bob and Doug. Do you know he did the talk with the two astronauts.
Oh, yeah. As a recipient of the Ray Aviation Scholarship, Ray Aviation Foundation Scholarship, that's who sponsored the scholarship, and EA was handling it when he got it, when his scholarship. And the fellow that was providing it was like $1 million scholarship every year, and I think it's still going on. He got it in the second year of his existence. Mr. Ray was a World War II veteran. I think he might have been in the Army Air Corps, I don't know, but he flew heavily after the war, but he did very well. And I think it might have been in the oil industry, I'm not 100% positive. But he became a wealthy man, and he decided he wanted to pay it forward and help young people get their pilot's license. So he created this scholarship program, the Ray Aviation Foundation Scholarship. Jerdal got one of those. As a recipient of that scholarship, then, all the recipients were contacted by the organization saying, we're setting up this link where you can have questions that you can ask the astronauts in the International Space Station, I think it was. And do you want to participate? And I got the initial message because I was the scholarship coordinator for our chapter. And I sent it right to Jerdal and said, yes, you do want to be involved in this. And so that was very cool that he got to do that. And then when he was at Oshkosh last year, I think 2021, yeah, they had a forum there, and the main speaker in the forum was one of the senior mission control people from Houston. Now he's retired now, but he was there telling everything about all the space efforts and all that. And Jerdal was, because he was a scholarship recipient, he was invited for that program too, and got to have one-on-one with, and they had a couple of astronauts, newer astronauts there too, I believe. And he was speaking with them and everything. And this was all done behind closed doors, special, away from the crowd. This was just for special people that he got invited to do that. So that was quite special too. So.
Do you remember, Laurie, when you first met Kirk at the airport? Like, how old was Jerdal at that time?
Maybe 9 years old.
9 years old. Yes, it is very remarkable.
You know, I'm sure it's in my logbook.
It's roughly around there.
And I happen to have my logbooks right here. If I can find it without spending too much time.
There's a lot of love.
Well, the first logbook got chewed up on my pet dog once.
Why do you keep a logbook every time you fly?
You're supposed to. You're supposed to keep a record of your flight hours and everything. So let's see what I got here. Number 4, number 3, 2. So number 5's out on the. So let's see.
Could be number 4.
I don't know. Let me find out. So 2012. This would be 20 years ago. I got the PA 12. And airport day, I believe, was in June. Okay, attended Ukiah Airport Day open house. That was in 2013. might take a little longer, but I'm sure I can pin it down.
So if it was 2013, he would have been about 11 years old.
Yeah, but I might have been there before too, so.
Right.
I'm looking for where usually I put names of people that I give rights to and stuff like that, so that's what I'm looking for.
It was before 11 years old, for sure.
I'm up to 2014 there, so I'm sure. Okay, so let's go back to 2009 just for drill. Okay, I didn't own the PA-12 yet. Oh yeah, I think I bought it in 2009. Okay, so it would have been that soon.
No.
I was real fortunate at one point, I had 3 airplanes. I had the J3 Cub, the PA-12, and the Blanca. I was living it up.
Well, cheers on that.
And then Bob Nemes had his Cessna 150, and I was flying it all the time too. J3, PA-12, J3, that sold. J3, Blanca. Was this my PA-12?
We flew in.
No, this was Jim's PA-12. So I had not bought the PA-12 yet in
Oh,
09. So Piper PA-12, that's Jim's PA-12. Seven 634 Echo. Oh, that's way back here. No, that's mine. No mistake. No. Okay. Get your numbers straight, Kurt. 7634 Echo is the Polanka. PA-12, 7973 Hotel. That's Jim's PA-12. He had a PA-12. So this was before mine. 7634 Echo. Three 3517 Mike. May 29, 2010, test flight after purchase and annual inspection. That's my first flight in the airplane,
2010.
2010. So that was 12 years ago. It'll be 13 years in May. So in May of this year, I will have the airplane 13 years. Okay, so now we gotta look. When I took it to Willits, 2010, 2011. Willits, Ukiah, that's what I meant to say, Ukiah. Okay, doesn't look like I did that in 2011.
2012.
So, Ukiah, 2012, that wasn't, yeah, Ukiah Airport Day. Dropped off Otto and returned to Boonville to pick up Jeff. So that wasn't the time that I met your dog. So that's 2012. Okay. So now we're looking at 2013. So maybe it wasn't that quite as long ago as I thought. That's a good example of, as you get older, you can't remember things. Okay, so you kind of,
It's gotta be right there now,
Yeah.
somewhere there. It's not in 12, but it's in 2.
okay, so in 2013, I attended Ukiah Airport Day, open house. And I was awarded the Best Antique Aircraft Award. That's probably when I met Trudeau.
2013.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He would have been
So
11.
9 years ago. 10 years ago, sure.
He seemed so much smaller.
Yeah.
He was like.
So in 2013, how old would he have been?
Should I?
Yeah.
I think
11 years.
11. Okay. So let's go to 2014 and see what I've got logged here. Okay. Flight to Ukiah to take 11-year-old Jerdal Bruce and mom. So that's April the 5th.
So we met you a year before.
Scenic flight around Mendo Lake in Sonoma counties. They loved it, is what I wrote in my logbook. So that was 2014 when we took the ride. So I guess I'm remembering things wrong. I thought that, well, the first time I met Jerdal, I didn't see him again for a year, and then
Yeah.
he was waiting for me, and it was after that we took the ride. So we took the ride in 14, April, that's before the airport day.
Mm-hmm.
So that was Tibbetts. Wings and Wiener from Casablanca. So let's see. So if we took the ride here, then in 2013 was the second time we had met.
Yep.
Which would be,
I think you would not have logged the first time we met at the airport because we didn't do anything.
no, I would have logged my flight though.
Yeah, your flight,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so here, attended Ukiah Airport Day open house.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have been 2013, should have been the second time. That's when he was waiting for me the second time.
Yeah.
So 2012 is when I first met
First
him,
met, yeah.
I believe.
Yep. So 2012 is when we first met.
Whoop. 2012, I did on the Piper. When was the airport day? okay, but, you know, I went there